Inflation hits the 12 days of Christmas. I'm Kevin Cirilli. It's time for the Daily Debrief. Let's get right to it. Political showdown at the U.S.-Mexico border. President Biden is pushing back against Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott's new border policies. Under the new Texas legislation, Abbott has made illegal immigration a state crime. Already, Democrats are pushing back, deriding the legislation as a show-me-your-papers bill and vowing to appeal it in court. Legal precedent is murky. In 2012, the Supreme Court struck down portions of a similar law that was down in Arizona, citing that the federal government sets immigration laws. Earlier this week, the government announced it was closing 2 rail ports of entry at Eagle Pass as a result of the surging migrant crisis. But Abbott says Biden isn't doing enough.
This law I'm about to sign will fund many more miles of wall and barrier just like this. Senate Bill 3 will help to deter illegal immigration and support our law enforcement response to the Biden border crisis.
This month alone, U.S. Border Patrol officials estimate that more than 10,000 migrants have crossed through the border per day. And let's head on down now to the border where Capitol correspondent Monica Madden from our sister station KXAN in Texas joins us. Monica, what exactly will the new law do?
So as you mentioned, Kevin, it makes it a state crime for anyone to cross from Mexico into Texas illegally outside of a port of entry. So this could be punishable up to 6 months in jail. It's a Class B misdemeanor. And for repeat offenders, they could face up to 20 years in prison. And that's a second-degree felony. So the penalties are stiff for those who repeat this offense. And it also, part of this is it gives state police officers new authorities that are currently reserved just for federal police officers, Border Patrol. So any state officer or local police officer, if they see someone crossing over here illegally, they could arrest them. Those penalties that I laid out exist, but also if that migrant agrees, a state judge could order them to return back to Mexico.
So that's the policy. Now tell me about the people. What are they telling you inside of these border communities?
We're hearing a little bit of mixed reaction from people here in the Rio Grande Valley, Kevin. A lot of people in this community, they do see a lot of issues going on here at the border and welcome a lot of the governor's policies under Operation Lone Star, specifically because a lot of them feel as though the federal government is not doing enough to curb the flow of illegal migration. So they welcome a lot of these initiatives, whereas there are other people, opponents, who feel very strongly against new laws like this one. Lots of fear we heard from people on the ground here, worries that, for some of those who have mixed immigration status families, which is a lot of people here in these border communities, they have a lot of fear that, maybe their mother, who is a citizen, might be targeted because she speaks Spanish and the color of her skin. A lot of folks are telling us they're afraid about racial profiling. So there's a lot of fear in the community as well, as much as this is welcomed by a lot of the governor's supporters, Kevin.
Monica, you've got some new reporting on the legal battle looming and Governor Abbott's response.
Yeah, absolutely. Just within the last 30 minutes or so, we got our first lawsuit against Senate Bill 4. This was completely expected. The ACLU is suing Texas over this law. And yesterday during the press conference, Governor Abbott said he plans to take this to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary. As you noted, a similar law in Arizona got struck down by the Supreme Court in 2012. But Governor Abbott thinks that Texas's law will pass the constitutionality test and hopefully give the state more authority when it comes to enforcing immigration laws, depending on how the Supreme Court might rule if it gets to that point. We also just heard from the president of Mexico, who says this country plans to challenge this law as well. Kevin?
Monica Madden, excellent reporting. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us, truly. Thank you. Senator John Fetterman on the attack as U.S. steel is sold for $14.9 billion to Japan's Nippon Steel.
I'm standing on the roof of my home right here in Braddock, Pennsylvania, right across the street from the Edgar Thompson plant. And I just have to say it's absolutely outrageous that they have sold themselves to a foreign nation and a company. Can't do that. Steel is always about security as well, too. And I am committed to doing anything I can do from using my platform or my position in order to block this.
Fetterman's arguing that this is a major blow to his state since more than 3,700 people were directly employed by the company. Pennsylvania Senator isn't alone in his fight as opposition for the sale continues to grow. Senator J.D. Vance released a statement saying, "I will do everything in my power to protect the future of our nation's security industry and workers." Shares of the company surged after the announcement, jumping more than 25%. Happening now, deliberations are underway at the United Nations Security Council about a resolution calling for a halt in the Israeli-Hamas war. The United States has been one of the only voices on the Security Council to urge that any resolution from the UN also condemn the Hamas October 7 terror attack against Israel.
That the atrocities Hamas committed on October 7 must be condemned. That Hamas must not be allowed to control Gaza for the sake of Israeli and Palestinian safety alike.
Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is in the Middle East this week, meeting today with Qatari officials who have been brokering peace talks behind the scenes.
We will continue to stand up for Israel's bedrock right to defend itself. And we will also continue to urge the protection of civilians during conflict and to increase the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
And a new New York Times Siena College poll out today shows that 57% of Americans disapprove of President Biden's handling of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Only 33% approve. And when asked whom they trust more to handle the war, get this, 46% of voters pick Trump compared to Biden's 38%. GOP frontrunner Donald Trump is zeroing in now on Nikki Haley. Pro-Don super PAC MAGA Inc. is unleashing attack ads in New Hampshire, where Nikki Haley has surged to second place. She's 15 percentage points behind him in the Granite State and about 22 percentage points behind him nationally. Haley's brushing off the criticism. She posted on X that the attack ads show that Trump is getting nervous. #BringIt. We're getting new details from a small piece of wording in the National Defense Authorization Act that Congress passed last week. Now, this is a small amendment buried in the NDAA's 4,408 pages. But this impact could be massive in terms of public disclosures around UFOs and UAPs. According to this small provision known as the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena Disclosure Act, the federal government is now required to release publicly some, emphasis on some, records that it has on UFOs and UAPs. But here's where transparency activists are still critical of what this all means. The provision says that the executive branch, the president, that he has up to, or she has up to 25 years to unveil the information. But this is important. The president can decide if the record should remain undisclosed for national security reasons. So what do you think? Does the UFO Disclosure Act go far enough? Let me know in the comments section. And this year, Washington has finally woken up to UFOs and UAPs, and there's been hearings on the Hill and widespread conversation about it. And it's because serious, credible journalists like Garrett Graff, whose geopolitics and national security coverage have earned him a Pulitzer Prize nomination in the past. Well, now he's out with a new best-selling book, UFO, Inside the U.S. Government's Search for Alien Life Here and Out There. He's joining me now. Garrett, congratulations on an incredible book. It's and all of your hard work on and reporting. Is there life out there?
Yes. One of the huge changes that we've seen in the last 25 years in astronomy is the understanding that really the math is on the side of the aliens. That, you know, as late as the 1990s, we didn't realize that there were any planets outside of our own solar system. And now we understand that almost every star across the entire universe probably has stars. And even when you adjust for what's called the Goldilocks zone, sort of the so-called habitable zone of life, planets that could sustain life as we know it, there might be as many as 1 sextillion. That's a billion trillion habitable planets across the universe. I don't even know what that number means, Garrett.
Quantify that for us. That's such a big number, I can't even compute it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what it means is that our life probably is spread all over the universe, and probably there's actually a fair bit of intelligent life as well. What we've come to understand is that the odds against life might be long, but there's certainly not 1 in sextillion.
So this NDAA provision, is this a game changer for your topic and for what you cover?
Yeah, I think what it is it's consistent with a steady stream of mostly congressionally driven legislation that we have seen since 2017 that has ratcheted up the pressure on the Pentagon to pay attention to UAPs and UFOs and to be more public and more transparent about what the government does know. So I don't know that this is the be-all and end-all of declassification. I think we've probably still got a long way to go, but it's an important step forward, and it's consistent with 6 years of consistently increasing pressure on the Pentagon.
So in your view, which president has been the most forthcoming about this topic?
I don't think we've really seen any presidents be particularly forthcoming about this topic. One of the things that was interesting in studying this history is, much like that Us Weekly Celebrities Are Just Like Us feature, presidents are just like us. Almost all of them in modern times, one of the first questions that they have asked upon taking office has been, what's up with the aliens? And one of the things that we have seen that's interesting and to me important is President Barack Obama, after leaving office, has talked about how he remains puzzled by the UFO UAP phenomenon. That's an important step to me in terms of this transparency movement.
Why do you think the government hasn't been revealing at all when it comes to this issue? What are they scared of?
Yeah, so I think that part of the challenge of this is there are a couple of obvious cloaks of secrecy that entangle UFO sightings. Some chunk of what the public thinks are UFOs are secret, covert government development projects, planes, drones, new technologies. And then some chunk of it is also foreign technologies, foreign drones, foreign spycraft. And the U.S. government, for a lot of obvious reasons there, gets squirrely talking about what its sensors detect and what it understands. What we don't know, and what I'm frankly dubious of, is whether the U.S. government is hiding meaningful knowledge about UFOs being of extraterrestrial or non-human origin. And there, I think you have to be wary of the possibility of the government being able to carry off a conspiracy theory and cover up sort of quite that big.
Garrett, I applaud you for your reporting. You've done an excellent job. Keep after it, because the answers are out there. We need more serious journalists like you talking about this, reporting on it, and getting us answers. So thank you, Garrett. Go get his book. It's called UFO. What can't you buy at Costco? The powerhouse wholesale retailer hit a gold rush last quarter as it sold $100 million worth of the shiny bars. At just over $2,000 an ounce, gold has long been seen as a safe haven hedge against inflation. But good luck getting your hands on these, as Costco's CFO says that they sell out within hours of being posted online. Inflation was up 3.1% compared with this time last year. So what does this mean for your holiday shopping? My next guest is always making sense of Wall Street and Washington and what it means for your bottom line. Trevor Hanger. He's a senior vice president at Forbes Tate Partners in Washington, D.C. All right, Trevor, when will Fed Chairman Jay Powell cut the rates?
Oh, that's a good question. I think if they want to be ahead of the curve, then they should be looking at a first quarter rate cut sometime around March. But I think knowing this Fed, they're going to take their time. They're going to be more data dependent, which inherently means they're going to lag a little bit. So I'd be looking at the middle of the year, probably late second or more likely early third quarter would be my guess right now.
It's been a great month for markets, but are investors overemphasizing rate cuts over geopolitical risk?
Well, I think they've been overemphasizing rate cuts for a while. They've been very optimistic at the idea that rate cuts were coming sooner rather than later. And so that's something that they're going to have to probably continue to adjust to, even as maybe they're claiming some victory over the Fed, given what the Fed did this past week. But I think geopolitical events, global geopolitical events aren't going away anytime soon. And so it's important for investors to keep those front of mind and make sure that they really understand what the risks are there.
So PNC crunched the numbers on what it would cost if you bought every item on the 12 days of Christmas. You know, everybody's favorite annoying Christmas carol. What do you think, Trevor, that it would cost if you purchased every item on that list?
Oof. So it's a lot of birds, right? It's thousands of birds, right? Some gold rings, pear tree. I'm going to guess I don't know. You get some compounding issues there with all those birds and going through the song 12 times. I'm gonna say it's $160,000.
Wow, no, you're way over, Trevor. It's $46,729.86. That is up 2.7% compared to last year, which is just slightly below the CPI number. So, the Christmas index a little bit different than that CPI. And the most expensive items on that list, 10 Lords a-Leaping. I don't know even where you would get 10 Lords a-Leaping, but that will cost you $14,539.20. Number 2, 7 Swans a-Singing. Again, why would you ever want 7 swans at a Christmas party? $13,125. So there you go, Trevor, in case you are looking for your last-minute holiday shopping. And in one word, Trevor Hanger, the state of American business is?
Strong.
What?
Strong.
Strong. We'll leave it there. Yep. Trevor Hanger, thank you so much for that analysis. Thousands of Icelanders and tourists have been evacuated after a volcano has erupted on the island. Mount Fagradalsfjall volcano erupted earlier this week, opening a 2.5-mile-long crack in the earth and propelling gushing lava, endangering nearby towns and tourism destinations. Lava is currently flowing 1.6 miles north of Iceland's famous Blue Lagoon hot spring. This is a man-made geothermal pool popular amongst tourists. It's now temporarily closed due to the volcano. Geologists have been carefully tracking the volcano after several earthquakes were recorded in the region. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor was laid to rest today. Funeral services were held at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., where President Biden and Chief Justice Roberts honored the life of the first female on the Supreme Court.
Sandra Day O'Connor, daughter of the American West, was a pioneer in her own right, breaking down the barriers in the legal and political worlds and the nation's consciousness.
She had to be both the most important woman in government and also a devoted wife who, with her devoted husband, John, raised 3 sons of whom they were so very proud. All this and more she had to do, and she got it done.
Sandra Day O'Connor was 93 years old. And that's it for today's Daily Debrief. My name is Kevin Cirilli. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube page and leave us a comment. And come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.